Dart referees seem like the most laser-focused people on earth. Well, not really, because some blunders made during high-profile matches have left fans thinking otherwise. That being said, these are the top 10 most controversial dart calls ever. Number 10. Bruce Spendley forgets to do his job in the Stompe vs Phillips match. Let's begin with Co-Stompe's classic against Steve Phillips. The crowd's buzzing, darts are flying, and then it happens. Stompe lands a key scoring shot and all eyes turn to the referee. But Bruce Spendley? He just stands there and says absolutely nothing. Not a word. In fact, you could hear a fly sneeze in that silence. The players glance around like someone just hit pause on reality. Bruce, who normally has the presence of a stern schoolteacher calling out test results, just completely forgets to announce the score. Maybe he zoned out, maybe he was thinking about lunch, or maybe he was calculating 137 in his head with one eye closed. Either way, he didn't say a word. Of course, the ref eventually calls the score, but that moment of prolonged delay? Well, it was enough to throw everything off. But if you think standing there in silence is bad, wait until you hear what happens when the referee actually opens his mouth and makes things even weirder. Number 9. Paul Hinks gets weird in the Van Gerwen vs Taylor match. Alright, brace yourself for this next one because it's the kind of thing you can't unhear. Two absolute legends of the game, Michael Van Gerwen and Phil Taylor, are in a tight battle. The energy's off the charts, the pressure's insane, and every leg feels like a final. Then comes the moment. MVG nails what should be the match-winning dart, and Paul Hinks, the referee, leans into the mic like he's about to deliver a Shakespearean monologue. But instead of a clear, confident call, we get this weird, muffled, robotic noise. Something that sounded kind of like "game shot," I think. The crowd literally paused. People didn't even clap at first because no one knew what had just happened. It was like the ref himself wasn't sure if it was over. Taylor turned around with a raised eyebrow. Look, this isn't a pub league. This is two of the greatest players ever going at it, and the ref decides to get experimental with his vocal cords. Clarity matters, and in this case, the whole vibe got thrown off. But hey, calling a weird game shot is one thing. What if the referee just forgot the entire format of the match? Oh yeah, we're going there next. Number 8. Paul Hinks forgets the rules in Newton vs Reyes. Now, you'd think if your one job is to enforce the rules, you might, remember all of the actual rules? But in this next gem, Paul Hinks manages to forget the most important one of all. It's the final leg between Wes Newton and Cristo Reyes. The tension is sky high because this isn't just another leg, it's sudden death. One leg to decide all. Everyone watching knows it, the players know it, the commentators are explaining it, and then there's Paul Hinks, apparently operating in his own little dimension. He starts the leg without acknowledging that this is the one that settles everything. No build-up, no "this is it" moment, just business as usual. It was like watching someone host a fireworks finale and forgetting the grand finale part. Newton was clearly annoyed, Reyes looked slightly baffled, and the fans were left scratching their heads. It's not just about forgetting the drama, it's about forgetting that you're officiating a do-or-die moment. But hey, at least he didn't call a win that literally never happened. And yes, that's exactly what happens next. Number 7. Russ Bray calls a win that didn't happen. Taylor vs Winstanley, Gibraltar 2013. Now this one's a classic oops moment. We're in Gibraltar for the 2013 Darts Trophy. Phil Taylor is squaring off against Dean Winstanley. It's a tight match, and here comes the final throw. Taylor fires at the double, and boom, Russ Bray belts out his iconic game shot.
Here on a potential 2-dart hole, though, that is a nasty miss. He's still got to find himself a treble, which he has done. Phil Taylor now looking at double 12.
And the foot leg. Phil Taylor.
The crowd lose it, people are on their feet, clapping, screaming, thinking it's all over. But here's the problem, the dart didn't stick. It bounced out, and yet the game was called. Winstanley stood there like he'd just been robbed at dart point. Even Taylor gave a half shrug like, are we sure about that? But the worst part is, once a ref calls the game, it's done. You can't exactly rewind and pretend it didn't happen. So a match-winning shot that never actually scored was officially counted. That's like awarding a touchdown when the football lands in the popcorn stand. But if you thought that was bad, just wait till you hear about what happens when Russ Bray tries to do math on live TV. Number 6. Russ Bray goes full math fail in Taylor vs. Wright in Dubai. If you've ever struggled with math, congratulations, you're not alone. Russ Bray basically turned a high-profile match into a live math disaster during the 2014 Dubai Duty-Free Darts Masters. Phil Taylor and Peter Wright were battling it out, and it should have been a showcase of elite darts. Instead, it turned into a game of, what's the score again? Bray miscounted multiple times, and I don't mean little slip-ups, I mean full-on mathematical blunders. At one point, Taylor had to double-check with Bray like a student asking the teacher if the test answers were wrong. Wright, who is usually one of the more chill guys on the tour, looked like he was trying not to explode. The rhythm of the match got totally derailed, and both players had to recalibrate consistently. But speaking of total confusion, the next incident wrecked a Premier League classic involving two legends. Number 5. Lewis vs. van Barneveld. Premier League Week 13 madness. So it's Week 13 of the 2015 Premier League, and you've got two of the biggest names in darts on the oche. Adrian Lewis and Raymond van Barneveld. Two guys who don't need any help creating drama. But apparently the officials wanted a bit of the spotlight too, because from the very first leg, the whole thing just felt off.
In this Premier League, ball for Lewis. And done. Oh, there's a miscount here. For the leg, Lewis gets it.
Score announcements came late, and some didn't come at all. One leg actually started, and no one seemed to know it had even begun. At one point, Lewis literally turned around mid-match with this expression like, "Are you people serious?" And honestly, who could blame him? There were score checks, score corrections, and even one bizarre moment where Barneveld seemed confused about whether the leg had ended. It was like someone had unplugged the referee's brain and forgotten to plug it back in. Now, if you thought that was bad, buckle up, because the next one involves Russ Bray again. Number 4. Russ Bray fumbles in Manley vs. Taylor. We all know Russ Bray has the most iconic voice in darts, but apparently not always the most accurate one. Because in the match between Peter Manley and Phil Taylor, we got a little something extra. And no, it wasn't a bonus 180. It was Russ Bray miscalling a score that even your grandma could have gotten right. Taylor lands what looks like a textbook score, turns around expecting the call, and suddenly Russ throws out a number that has Taylor blinking in confusion and Manley smirking like he just won the lottery. And honestly, Manley's face said it all. He didn't even try to hide his disbelief. You could literally see the words forming in his head that we definitely can't say here. But what makes this one worse is that it didn't just mess with the score, it messed with the momentum. Taylor had to stop, get clarification, and refocus. That's a nightmare scenario when you're trying to stay locked in. Number 3. Sayer vs. Brugier Jr. North American Championship Mayhem. Next up, let's fly across the pond to the 2017 North American Championship. Dave Sayer was facing off against DJ Brugier Jr., and on paper, this should have been a clean, high-quality match. But instead, what we got looked like a ref trying darts for the first time. The moment of madness came during a crucial second round. Brugier throws a solid visit, clear to everyone watching, but then the referee announces a score that had people looking around like they just walked into a parallel universe. Sayer was as stunned as the rest of us. Brugier actually paused and checked the board himself like, wait, did I just hallucinate? Even the commentators didn't know what to say for a few seconds, which in darts is practically unheard of. This wasn't just a small misread, it was a proper game-shifting error that killed the rhythm and left both players out of sorts. The look on Sayer's face says it all. You could tell he knew it wasn't fair, but had no idea how to fix it. But believe it or not, things get even more bizarre in the next match, where a referee calls a score that no one else on earth saw. Number 2. Lloyd vs. Van der Rassel. A full-on score confusion. Colin Lloyd vs. Gerwen van der Rassel delivered one of the weirdest officiating moments in darts history. This wasn't just a mistake, this was the kind of call that makes you wonder if the ref was looking at a completely different match. Lloyd threw what looked like a clean score, straightforward stuff, Nothing fancy, nothing confusing. But then the ref opens his mouth and out comes a number so wrong, even the scoreboard operator looked confused. Lloyd actually stopped, turned around and asked the ref to say it again, because quite frankly, he simply couldn't believe the ref's call. To make matters worse, the ref didn't budge. He stuck to the score like it was gospel, even though everyone in the room knew it wasn't. The crowd wasn't having it either. They were booing and shouting. I'm sure some guy in the back was probably Googling how to replace a referee mid-match. The whole vibe turned hostile real quick. Lloyd's rhythm was wrecked and Van der Rassel looked just as lost, and what could have been a decent contest became a scoring circus. But that's not even the worst, because the number one spot on this list belongs to the ref who literally distracts a player during his throw. Number 1. Paul Hinks distracts Adrian Lewis in a match against Andy Hamilton. So guys, here's the biggest jaw-dropper of them all. The time Paul Hinks made himself the main character in a match between Adrian Lewis and Andy Hamilton. Now, referees are supposed to blend into the background. You're not supposed to notice them unless something goes wrong. And oh boy, did something go wrong. Mid-leg, Lewis steps up to throw. He was focused and zoned in. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, Paul Hinks pipes up with something and completely breaks Lewis's concentration. Lewis immediately stops, gives Hinks the kind of death stare that could melt steel, and basically asks, "What are you doing?" And you could feel the tension crank up like someone had just cut the brakes on a roller coaster. This wasn't a minor distraction either, it threw Lewis off entirely. He had to reset himself, and let's be honest, once your rhythm's gone in darts, good luck finding it again. The commentators were stunned, the fans were shocked, and Lewis, well, he was unimpressed. Because when a referee becomes the reason a player misses a crucial throw, that's not just a bad call, that's a nightmare. And that's exactly why this one takes the crown as the most ridiculous referee blunder in darts history. Then again, with the way some of these calls have gone in recent years, we might be back here sooner than you think. But what do you think is the most controversial call ever? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to click subscribe.